Today on the Inside Scoop, we got a Gabriel-Georges Ohio State update. Also going to talk some other targets of interest for the Buckeyes. We are going to the state of Texas and California as we continue to turn the page to 28-28. Going to talk some 5 stars in those states. And, you know, we're just going to talk a lot of recruiting. It's a big show. You guys hit subscribe. Let's do this. Make sure you're subscribed to this channel because it's the best recruiting channel on all of YouTube. All right. We got a big show. Let's get to it. We got to talk Ohio State recruiting. Jeremy Birmingham here with Letterman Rowe and David Gabriel-Georges. That's what everybody is talking about. The number 2 running back in America, number 9 overall. He comes off the board on Wednesday, July 22nd. Ole Miss is going to be a hat on the table, but this is really Tennessee and Ohio State. How are you feeling 1 week from decision day?
I think Ohio State feels worse than they did, you know, at the beginning of June after he made his official visit to Columbus. Obviously, the trip he made to Knoxville a week later was impactful. It's always felt like it was those 2 teams for David. And I don't know that either side feels like 100% sure of what he's going to do. There's some major discrepancies in as far as the opportunities on the NIL side that I think Ohio State would like to still continue to work through. But, you know, the Buckeyes have long believed that they have the best relationship with David and his family. Now it's about closing the deal there and figuring out what's truly the most important thing for him in his recruitment and ultimately his decision. Because, and I know Steve Wiltfong was talking to you about it the other day, but when it comes to Tennessee, there's a couple different things that the Vols have to offer. The chance to help rebirth that program to prominence, where Ohio State, you know, it's basically like you're just a cog in the big bad Buckeye machine. But that has some pretty good advantages too, like winning championships and being drafted in the first round and those sort of things that the Buckeyes continue to do.
Mm-hmm. So let's just say he goes to Tennessee. That's what happens. Sure. Where does Ohio State move from there when it comes to the running back position?
Well, I mean, the Buckeyes have had a few other players at the position that they've kept on. I don't want to say a backup plan, but
kept them warm.
Jaden Miles, the Florida State commitment, is one that took an official visit to Ohio State. He was actually the only other running back around the country that did take an official visit to Ohio State. He committed to Florida State the day after his Ohio State official visit, knowing fully well that the Buckeyes were not going to allow him to make a decision that involved their school until David made his decision. The Buckeyes were very much interested in Nigel Newkirk, the Alabama commitment from Georgia, who was supposed to take an official visit but didn't, because Alabama made it worth his while to not take an official visit to Ohio State over the weekend of June 12th. And then there's other players around the country that they're going to continue to evaluate. I don't see Ohio State taking, you know, I know there's a common belief that the Buckeyes have X amount of money set aside for David Gabriel-Georges and that you can just spin that into another running back. And I don't think that that's the tack that they would take. So the people who are curious or wondering, is there a possibility to, you know, go ahead and turn around and offer Keemon Spell or something that amount of money? That's not really the way that the Buckeyes want to operate. There are a handful of other players that they'll evaluate, but at this point, by the time this decision gets made on July 22nd, there's no real rush for Ohio State to turn around and try to find a backup plan, because the football season is going to start in a month. You're going to see senior film. You're going to have opportunities to evaluate. And who knows? I mean, we live in college football recruiting in the year 2026. Maybe Elijah Newman Hall wants to reclassify. You don't know what can happen. That's just me completely postulating, just speculating there. That's not anything we've heard, but anything's possible at this point if David ends up picking Tennessee.
Yeah, I mean, what about Nigel Newkirk? I mean, he was another name that I thought Ohio State was heavily involved with, commits to Alabama, but is he a name that you could maybe see Ohio State circle back on?
Yeah, Nigel's certainly one of them. Again, he was expected to take an official visit over the weekend of June 12th, and he visited Alabama a week before, and the Crimson Tide made it worth his while to not do it. So Ohio State would like to see him on campus again. He had a visit to the school in April for the spring game that really liked. But again, the Buckeyes are not going to say yes to any other running back as long as David was out there. So now they're going to see what happens. What I think is interesting is, you know, I don't know if that was an Ohio State carrot or if that was a David Gabriel-Georges request, because it seems like Tennessee is in a position to land another running back the week after. So how that plays out will be interesting.
Yeah, Asa Barnes probably going to end up there as well in Tennessee.
Right.
So let's talk about who could be next. We know David Gabriel-Georges is 1 week from today, but could Ohio State get another commitment even before then?
Yeah, I mean, I think Ohio State is in a position right now where they could get some news in the next couple of days from Carlos May, the big defensive tackle from Alabama, Ramsey High School down there in Birmingham, where the Buckeyes have really, really long loved Carlos May. There was a lot of Georgia buzz early, then some Auburn fight towards the end. But I think the Buckeyes still feel like they're the team to beat in that recruitment, coupling him with Wyatt Smith and DJ Jacobs and Marcus Fakatau gives Ohio State maybe the best defensive line haul in the country. It's not as large a group as some of the other schools in the country have, but it's a pretty good group. And that's really, Manchin Sales probably still trending toward Indiana, I would have to assume, for Friday. But the Buckeyes have believed that they're in that fight as well. So they're really looking at going through the end of July here and then getting to their senior seasons and doing the back half of the class. The back 5 or 6 guys will probably be in season senior year eval. So the majority of the hay is in the barn for Ohio State when it comes to recruiting. So you've got Manchin Sales, you've got Carlos May, you've got David Gabriel-Georges, and then you have a little bit of a lull until the senior seasons.
So we get big news on July 1st. Jet Harrison, the number 1 player in the 2028 class, off the board, makes that commitment real early to Ohio State. This is going to build the foundation of a great class. So that being said, right now, who else do you feel great about when it comes to Ohio State 2028 recruiting?
Yeah, they love the fact that, number one, Ohio State fans who are concerned about running back recruiting should understand that Carlos Loughlin took that commitment from Elijah Newman-Hall a year ago without hesitation. Yeah. The Buckeyes believe that he is an exceptionally talented running back prospect. And then you add Jet Harrison. What I felt was most interesting is that those two, Jet and Elijah, were on campus together at Ohio State on June 18th. And so was Christopher Vargas, the 5-star quarterback from Massachusetts. That trio, I think, is really where you start this class of 2028 and then go from there. But the Buckeyes also have Jameer Weish already committed in that class as one of the top defensive linemen in the country. So they feel like they're in a position to really get stronger in that class. Some key players to know are like Taj Gray, the linebacker from New Jersey, who is at the very top of the overall board for Ohio State in that class. But I would think that the majority of the work in that class will be done over the next few months as the Buckeyes continue to evaluate. Even a guy like Christopher Vargas, who they love, and he's a 5-star quarterback prospect, big arm, big size. He's got everything you look for. Ohio State has been reluctant to go too aggressive with players that early because there's so many things happening now in the recruiting world when it comes to NIL or evaluations or players that don't improve or guys who hit their ceiling too quick. So they'd like to get as much film on these guys as possible. So I don't think you're going to see them really push a guy like Chris Vargas to try to commit early. I think they'd rather wait through the end of his junior season to see how that shakes out.
Yeah. Pretty interesting, and we just know that 2028 class is going to be competing for number 1. So Ohio State fans, chime in here. We got a week to go until David Gabriel-Georges comes off the board. Which way you leaning right now? Ohio State, Tennessee? Talk to us, comment section below. Let's talk 2028. We are turning the page. This time we're turning the page in the state of Texas. We have Sam Spiegelman here. He is the man when it comes to Texas intel. Now, we're not talking Texas Longhorn. We are talking state of Texas in 2028, and when it comes to that, the number 1 player in the state is Jalen Addae. He's got some NFL roots. He is a wide receiver. He's the number 1 player in the state, number 11 overall in the Rivals industry ranking, and his father is an LSU alum. So is Jalen Addae a threat to leave the state of Texas?
Absolutely. LSU is on the short list of contenders swinging away at Jalen Addae. Of course, a legacy. Joseph Addae played at LSU, won a Super Bowl with Peyton Manning and the Colts. Ohio State is another big name program in the mix as far as out-of-state contenders, but visited Texas A&M again this summer. Texas continues to stand in a great spot with the state's number 1 prospect for next year. Again, a blue chip wide receiver for Steve Sarkisian to try to keep inside the state, but our focus right now would be on LSU and Texas battling for Jalen Adai.
All right, we're going to get to the number 2 ranked player in the state, James Foster, the third, here in a second. But are you a bit surprised that we don't have any commitments in the top 10, in the top 20, in the top 25? None of the players in the state of Texas are off the board yet. Are we expecting a run soon?
Yeah, I don't think it'll be too long before these dominoes begin to fall, especially some of the quarterbacks
Yeah.
after making their spring and summer visits camping for a lot of these offensive coordinators and coaches this summer. I would expect those to be the first dominoes as early as this season, as maybe November, December,
Yeah.
more start to follow. And then we'll see these 2028s really start to come off the board as soon as the calendar flips to 2027.
We have to talk about them now, because if we don't, you're not going to know who they are when they commit, because they are going to be coming off the board here soon. What about the number 2 ranked player in the state of Texas, James Foster the third? He's out of Lancaster, 6'2", 200-pound safety. Is there an early favorite?
Yeah, we're keeping a close eye on the Texas Longhorns. You said it, from Lancaster. He's got some strong Lancaster ties to the Longhorns football program, has been there quite a few times this spring, worked out there this summer. SMU would also love to keep James Foster home. LSU is a team surging with James Foster after coming by this spring, trying to get him on campus. But we're watching the Longhorns as an early spot with the elite 2028 defender.
All right, let's move over to Duncanville. In 2028, the number 3 ranked player in the state, Kendrick Harris. He's an interior offensive lineman, a real road grader at 6'3", 310 pounds. What's the latest on his recruitment?
I think Texas is again the early favorite for Kendrick Harris, but made a visit to SMU last month for the Mustang Splash, and SMU believes that they're going to be in this recruitment until the end. They missed on a few 5-stars in the 2026 cycle, the 2027 cycle, and they're in for a big group of blue chip prospects for 2028, and Kendrick Harris is right near the top of that list to keep an eye on.
All right. We're going to take a break and just going through some of these names. But when you had mentioned quarterback position and there could be a run, who are you looking at when it comes to early commitments, and where do you think they're headed?
Yeah, Tristan Gaines is the number 1 quarterback in the state of Texas in the Rivals 300. We got to see him at Rivals Houston camp earlier this spring and was fantastic. Oregon and Texas Tech are the 2 frontrunners with Gaines, but also keep an eye on Florida and Tennessee, who are been in this recruitment, are working to get him back to campus this fall. I expect him to be in Lubbock. I expect him to be in Eugene. He will have a decision either during his junior season or shortly after. Keep an eye on the Ducks to dip into Texas for another dynamic dual threat quarterback. Carter Zingelman, the top quarterback in Texas in the Rivals industry ranking. Early favorite is SMU. We're talking about them building out an elite 2020 class. They would love to keep the Capel 4-star quarterback close to the Dallas Metroplex. SMU is an early favorite there, with schools like Texas Tech, A&M, Clemson also swinging away. Speaking of Clemson, Clemson is in a great spot early on with Frisco Lone Star quarterback Trey Wright. I am close to putting an RPM prediction in for Wright to the Tigers. He was their first quarterback offer for Dabo Sweeney and staff this summer after working out in Death Valley. He will be back this fall for a visit. I think Clemson is sitting in a great spot early on in that recruitment.
Yeah, absolutely. So Texas quarterback recruiting is heating up. Now, I want to slide down to the number 9 ranked player in the state. He's the top defensive lineman right now in the state of Texas. We're talking RJ Wims, 6'1", 255 pounds. Obviously, athleticism off the charts here. Who is the early leader?
Yeah, I'm keeping my eye on the Red Raiders, which got him on campus twice this offseason, each visit better than the last. Texas Tech is Jalen Brewster is committed. K. Adrian Redmond is committed. Texas Tech loves to keep the best defensive lineman in Texas inside Texas, and they have the early edge with Wims. Keep an eye on Miami, which I'm told is making a strong push for the elite defensive lineman from Texas as well.
How much of a disruptor do you think Texas Tech is going to be this cycle? I mean, they've been a massive, now it's kind of more normalized, so I shouldn't even say disruptor. I should say how much of the top, 15, 20 players, how much market share will Texas Tech have when it comes to the top 20 players in the state of Texas?
You're going to see a very hefty presence of Red Raiders when you look at those rankings of top 20, 25 players inside the state of Texas. Listen, Texas Tech recruits nationally, but they always focus on the Lone Star State first. Some of their competitors like A&M and Texas also have a fantastic national reach. that opens a door for other programs in state like Houston, Tech, SMU, Baylor to capitalize on some of that other talent across the state.
Yeah, let's actually talk a little bit about Texas A&M because currently they are running away with the number one class in 2027. Who are some names that you're circling, some top names that you're circling for the Aggies in 28?
Yeah, of course they're going to recruit nationally and recruit within the region. They are also sitting with a number one 2028 class already. Keep an eye on Kellen Hall, the number 3 player in the country in the Rivals 300. He worked out in College Station. They already have a commitment from Chance Archangle, who they think is going to be the next great elite edge to come out of A&M committed. They're in a great spot with Braden Bonick, one of the best linebackers in the state. They're swinging away a 4-star receiver, Caden Lancelin, who is a teammate of Arch Angles. They are in the mix with Tylen Henderson, one of the best linebackers in the state. Much like they are going to be in the mix with some of the best inside the state. But like I said, they've recruited California, they've recruited Florida, they've recruited Georgia, they recruited Louisiana. Texas A&M has deep range, and they're in store for and potentially another number one recruiting class in 2028.
All right. And we are going to keep on talking Texas top prospects in the 2028 class with Sam Spiegelman, but this update is coming to an end. You guys are the real recruiting experts. I think Aggie fans, LSU fans, Texas Tech, SMU, Houston, they're all looking for a piece of the pie. So get in the comment section in which top prospects in this state do you think your team is going to land? Talk to me and Sam in the comment section below. In the latest edition of We Are Turning the Page to 2028, we're bringing in Adam Gorney, one of our California national analysts. And Adam, take a picture right now because no players in the top 50 in the state of California are committed. This will not last long. So we're going to start here in the top 10. I mean, to see all 50 uncommitted in the state, this is pretty rare, and it won't last long, will it?
Yeah, no, it's actually incredible. The top 50 in 2027 are all committed, and none of the top 50 in 2028 are committed. So like you said, Josh, take a picture because there are a lot of leaders, a lot of front runners for all these guys, but soon many will be coming off the board, I'm sure, especially as their junior seasons get going.
Yeah. So let's start with the number one player in the state for 2028, offensive tackle, Austin Atala. And he is 6'7", 290 pounds. The number 3 ranked offensive tackle in America. What's the latest intel on his recruitment early on?
Yeah, it's interesting because he has a lot of connections to the state of Texas and has basically been open about saying he wants to play there. Texas and Texas Tech are now the 2 schools to really watch if he were to go to Texas. He's also being pulled to USC kind of earlier. He's kind of a suburban kid, and so he wasn't crazy about the LA traffic. They kept asking him to come down for spring practice, and he was getting stuck, in an hour-long bumper-to-bumper situation and wasn't crazy about it. But as he kept going, as he got to know the people and the coaching staff and got to see that defensive line and the offensive line that they're building, he became very interested in USC. But I still think that the Texas schools, Texas in particular, I talked with him once before Texas had even offered, and I said, is that the dream offer? He said, yeah, if they offer, it's going to be really, really tough to turn them down. So Texas is right there, but his grandparents live in Lubbock, which is a huge boon for the Red Raiders there. He also has some aunts that live there. He had just visited there, and every summer he goes to the state of Texas at a family ranch. So there are definitely some things about Texas and Texas Tech that are drawing him. USC will continue to recruit him until, signing day in 2028.
Yeah. All right, we're going to talk through the rest of the top 10 because all these players are uncommitted. Not going to hit on every guy, but I want to cue you in on a few that interest me. We'll move to Gage Weddle. We all know his father, famously of the NFL, great safety for the Baltimore Ravens, and now his son is coming out, and he is the number 2 ranked player in the state of California. He's the number 3 ranked safety in America. Gage Weddle, what is the early intel on his recruitment?
Yeah, 3 schools mainly, Georgia, Ohio State, Oklahoma. Those 3 have kind of separated themselves, but there's a second tier group that he calls, and Utah's definitely involved there. He loves the coaching staffs at Cal and UCLA. Miami is in the mix there. So I think that's kind of the group right now. Utah is interesting. One, he could follow in his dad's footsteps. I think he absolutely loves Morgan Scalley. So I think that's an upgrade in terms of coaches as he looks at this. And maybe Utah down the stretch does close this out and get him. But there's also a sense that maybe he wants to do his own thing. And following in your father's footsteps, especially one as successful as him, I think they're going back for the Arkansas game. So his father gets put into the Ring of Honor there. And that's kind of tough sometimes. So I think maybe Utah will stay in this very, very much. But Oklahoma, Ohio State, Georgia, I think the Buckeyes and the Bulldogs have the edge right now. But one thing that's going to be important with Weddle is early playing time and depth chart. If a school just brought in like 2 5-star safeties in 2027, I don't think that they're going to have much of a chance with him. So he's kind of taking that second level approach to his recruitment, where it's not just kind of the NIL situation and which one he likes the best. He's definitely looking and digging deep into depth charts there. So I think that's going to play an important factor as we see safeties, even more safeties come off the board in 27.
All right, let's stay in Southern California. Lincoln Fa'alafi is a massive 6'8", 360-pound offensive tackle. Are the teams in state going to be able to keep him in state? That's the question here.
Yeah, what's interesting here is that he's 6'8", 360, and you think he couldn't move, but he's surprisingly mobile for someone that size. And when you kind of walk up onto him, he's just a massive human being. So every school in the country is going to be after him. I think he's going to be a guy who sees his recruitment even take off even more through this season. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Notre Dame is definitely one to watch early on, along with UCLA. But his mother has had visa issues getting here from New Zealand. So I think, he's definitely talked openly about missing her. And so I think that sort of reflects on the family dynamic there, that he's here with his father and his sister. The mother is coming, but does he leave and go away from them all that much? So I think that's the game UCLA is playing right now. USC is also involved, many, many other schools. He's also very close with Amaziah Siale, who just committed to LSU from Mission Viejo. So I think LSU is talking to him a lot more, and I think that's going to be also a big factor here. But I think right now, UCLA, Notre Dame are the two to watch.
All right, let's move on to the top quarterback in the state this cycle, Josiah Boyd. He's at Vista Del Lago, and he's 6'4", 175 pounds. Is this going to be a national recruitment?
Yeah, definitely. He is almost like a Jaden Daniels clone. I think that's really sort of the comp that you would have for him. He's tall and very lanky. So I think that's going to be interesting to see. Arizona State had him out recently, and Kenny Dillingham was talking him up in that sense. I think that's going to be intriguing, but it might be tough for the Sun Devils to stay involved, throughout this recruitment. Right now, it's Oregon and Ohio State, and I think Oregon has the lead. He's super close with that coaching staff. I think he loves the offense there, the situation after Dante Moore kind of opens up. And so we'll see how that kind of plays out. But then again, CJ Stroud is a Southern California quarterback. They've come out here and recruited as well as any team in the country, the Buckeyes, into Southern California. Yeah. So I think that's going to be an interesting one. Probably down the stretch, this is an Oregon-Ohio State battle.
All right. When it comes to the top 10, there's one more name I want to talk about, and that's Brandon Nash. Checking in at number 9. He's at St. John Bosco, a premier safety prospect, 6'1", 185. What's the latest on where he could end up?
Yeah, he's definitely a safety right now. Maybe kind of goes down into the box as he grows older and plays linebacker. But either way, he's going to be one of those hybrid players, sort of the that people love on defense now, guys that can kind of play all over, right, run and tackle. And so I think Ohio State, I was told this past weekend at the Battle at the Beach tournament, Ohio State is definitely number 1 on his list. He's really never hidden that. He wasn't the one who told me that, but the Buckeyes have been up there since he's taken multiple visits there. He's going to return this season. I would definitely watch Cal and UCLA, though. He's going to be at that season opener. It seems like every kid in California wants to go to that game to kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone and see both of those new teams on the field in Berkeley. Oklahoma is definitely involved. Arizona State, Washington. He has a bunch of teammates going to Washington, so I think that's going to be a big influence for him. But I think right now Ohio State is definitely the leader and the team to watch.
All right. Hey, you guys, you're the real recruiting experts. Talk to me and Adam about some of these top players in the state of California. Where do you think they're going to end up? Let us know. Put it in the comment section below.